Hey guys, it's your boy Cody back with another video. Today we're just doing a follow-up on the ultimate guide to playing New World on Steam Deck. And there's just been a few updates and changes, to systems, and the game gets updated and Steam OS gets updated and things change. So this is just kind of like a follow-on. Like if you've clicked this from the ultimate guide, like what you've done is fine. You haven't done anything wrong, but this just may work if you're still having issues with login or it crashing more often than it should. You could try these settings and hopefully it'll get you back on the right track. Or if it's been working for you and you've come back to see if there's been an update, and this is what I've come up with. So one of the big ones is to turn back your Steam Deck's memory buffer back to 1 GB. That seems to be just more stable. I was finding on 4 gigs I was crashing a lot more often than I was expecting to crash. So if the first thing I would do would be to turn off your deck, hold down the volume plus and power button and go back into the menu, advanced, and change it from the UMF buffer from 4 GB that we'd turned it up to back to 1 as a first step. Second step would be incompatibility that you're forcing. I would turn off the Bleeding Edge edition, as I think it's been constantly getting updated over the last few weeks, which has been fine. I hadn't really noticed any problems with it, but the latest update I think is maybe a little bit too unstable. So I've just dropped back to base Proton Experimental. That seems to be working fine, and I have played around with just no force, just using the base Proton, and I've also been playing around with 7.0-5. That seems to be working as well. So that would be my recommendation, is to go between those 3 Protons and see how you're going. I'm going to do some experimenting with GE Proton and see how that goes, and I'll get back to you guys when I've had a bit of a play with GE Proton, and if that gets rid of even more crashing issues or if it's still causing crashing issues. So the other thing was city teleporting seems to be okay sometimes and not okay other times. Loading into a city from cold sometimes works and sometimes doesn't for me now. So I logged into Ebonscale City the other day on my second try as it crashed the first time. And logging into Ebonscale, it worked the second time from cold. So there is progress being made with logging in cold into a city, but I would still recommend leaving a city before login or for when you log out, just to play it safe. Loading into dungeons, I've had I think 1 crash, but apart from that, it's actually been pretty solid getting in and out of dungeons. The frame rate I was trying to play at 40. I don't think the game is able to run at 40. It's just a bit heavy, even if everything on minimum and dynamic resolution, it's just a bit much. So I would say just go back to locking at 30. I did try knocking the resolution down, but it's starting to get blurry at that point, and you might be getting 40 frames, but it's definitely looking, I'd say, a little bit too soft for my liking at that resolution. So I just bumped it back up and just kept everything on low. That would be my thoughts on that, just because, yeah, as much as I'd love to play at 40, I think the game is just too much. And then I think that's most of the things tidied up. I did try Bluetoothing a controller, and it didn't run overly well doing it that way, so I would recommend not using a Bluetooth controller when playing New World. I would just use the Steam Deck itself and go from there. And as side notes, I've made, I think, in time they should have the game in a much more playable space. I'm hoping that they do end up doing some optimization for deck. I'm not confident that they will, and we'll struggle along as we are, but hopefully we'll just come across the right Proton that will help hopefully stop the crashes when loading into game. I mean, that is really the issue that's left, right, is just logging into cities. So if we can find a way to stop the login crashing, we could be fine. I am wondering about the swappiness, and along with the 4GB buffer, that might fix the problem. My issue with doing the swappiness hack on my Steam Deck is I don't have an SD card, so I don't have the available. I only have a 256 gig Steam Deck, so reserving say 16 gigs or 6 gigs of memory for more RAM, or however that swappiness system works, leaves me a little bit light for storage, so I'm not willing to risk it at the moment. Maybe once I get a terabyte SD card, I will give that a go, and hopefully that would fix all crashing issues. But I don't want to start doing too much weird stuff to play that game. Like, we're so close that surely there'll be a fix around the corner that we could get Amazon Game Studios to do. It's a big shout out to them if they could make that Steam Deck verified, like full-on verified, because that would be awesome, and the game would get it. Well, it's given a huge lease of life for me. I've put so many hours in now. Having the ability to not have it crash when loading into a city would be fantastic, or worrying about the deck crashing after playing for so long. I mean, I have done long stints on the deck, and it seems to be pretty good. It does get warm, so I maybe, even with everything on low, it still starts to cook after a few hours, so I normally give it a break and then come back. But in general, I'm really happy with how things are going. But those are my recommendations. Change it back to 1GB. Put everything, put it on the Proton Experimental, but not cutting edge, just the base experimental. Keep everything at low, and you should be fine. And I'll leave it at that. And I just want to thank you guys once again for listening and liking and subscribing and being part of this community and just playing video games on the go. Alright guys, I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!